In amongst all of the spring breakers gathered at the beach in Florida, you'll also find a group of general managers from across the NHL holding their annual meetings. I'm going to bring you my 5 takeaways from this year's annual NHL GM meetings. You know, when they aren't out getting in a round of 18 on some very nice golf courses down there in Florida, the NHL GMs gather to talk about some pretty serious things and topics relating to the NHL, things that they would like to see changed. This year, things were not as perhaps urgent as it has been in past years with the GM meetings. There were still things that were discussed, most of which have honestly been tabled to a later date to gather some more information, but some interesting things being tossed around. First up, the expansion of coaches' challenges. There are 2 areas that GMs discussed adding a new challenge for coaches to be able to utilize, and that is reviewing a high sticking penalty for friendly fire, and also reviewing delay of game penalties if it's believed that the puck actually did clip the glass on the way out of the playing area. There are some concerns from some of the GMs. Some of them are concerned that, they like the pace of the game right now, that most games, Pierre Dorian talking about how, most of the time games are done within 2.5 hours. They don't really want to continue adding additional elements that could lengthen the amount of a time that the game takes or the pace of the game. There are GMs who say, no, Kent Hughes being one of them, saying, I would like to see coaches have an additional challenge to utilize. The puck over the glass penalty for me is one of the dumbest rules that there is. It seems to be a complete waste of time. So I would be more in favor, instead of offering a coach's challenge about it, I would just be more in favor of just axing that penalty altogether. As far as the friendly fire on high sticking, do we need a coach's challenge for that? Or is that something that can be taken care of more with just the officials automatically taking a look, or the war room in Toronto taking a quick look to make sure that that penalty really is deserving? So it'll be interesting to see where the GMs end up falling on that one. Next up, fights that occur after clean hits in the NHL. This has become more and more of a trend in the past couple of seasons, where it seems like almost any time a player takes a big clean hit, whether it's in open ice or along the boards, that absolutely upon review is a clean hit. It just is a big hit. Immediately then guys on that player's team rush to his defense and fights are started that way. This is not, I should put an asterisk, this is not a take fighting out of hockey opinion. I'm fine with the fights in hockey. I'm not okay with fights just because your teammate was the recipient of a clean hit. Hitting is allowed in hockey. Clean hits that are big hits happen quite frequently. Drop the gloves when something egregious happens. Drop the gloves when something dirty happens. And so the GMs are looking at ways to discourage fights initiated after a clean hit, looking at either an additional minor penalty to the player who initiates a fight after a clean hit, or assessing them an instigator penalty. This is an avenue I don't mind seeing them explore because I don't believe that guys should be afraid to lay a clean hit, because then they don't want to have to deal with the retaliation and fight that comes after that. So I'll be curious to see how this one shakes out. Third, we have 3-on-3 overtime. It's an exciting 5 minutes of play. It really is. The pace, the skill. Sometimes it can be really entertaining hockey. The GMs discussed at this year's meeting expanding overtime from 3-on-3 overtime for 5 minutes and adding another 2 minutes to that and making it a 7-minute period of 3-on-3 play. If you do that, could you please axe the shootout? So I would prefer to see a longer overtime period. And the caveat to that would be add the removal of the shootout to that while you're at it. Next up was news about the salary cap. Gary Bettman did talk about the escrow situation. He believed that the escrow could have been maybe paid off by the end of the season. It has not been. This is the pandemic escrow, pandemic era debt that has accrued from the players. There's still about $100 million left to be paid off. And so because of that, it's looking like the salary cap is only going to go up by $1 million next year, rising from $82.5 million to $83.5 million. Now, they did mention that it's possible that it could get paid off sooner, and then there could be a $4 to $5 million cap increase next year. It is mostly looking like the cap is going to raise just by $1 million next year to $83.5 million. Last but not least is a new term that was coined quite frequently this year: scratched for trade-related reasons. It started with Jacob Chychrun, and it went on to, there were 3 weeks leading up to the trade deadline this year that you saw multiple players getting scratched for multiple nights for trade-related reasons. If there's a player who is on the block, if there's a player that has a trade imminent, you pull him, you don't play him so that you don't risk him getting injured, so that you can complete the transaction. But this year, it kind of took on a whole new face this year. The topic came up of, is this something that needs to be regulated? Is this unfair to the player? Is it causing dissent or causing any kind of ill will or ill feelings in the dressing room or with the player in his agent's camp? And this is another one that they're going to kind of wait and feel this one out. Gary Bettman talking about the fact that he wants to see if this season happened to be what he called a one-off of this, or if this is going to start being a trend every year going forward. And if that ends up being the case, then I think that they're going to take a hard look at this and maybe limit how long or how many games coaches have the ability to do that and healthy scratch a player for trade-related reasons. But if things kind of go back to a little bit of normal next year, then this likely goes away. But it's interesting that this certainly caught GM's attentions, and obviously not a lot of them liked it. Some very interesting concepts. Nothing has been decided firmly yet. We'll see if anything gets raised in the summer for the Board of Governors meeting. But right now, just things kind of simmering in the background. My feedback forum question for you this week is, would you like to see any of these things that were talked about at the GM's meeting come to life, come to reality? Would you support any of these changes or not? And if so, why or why not? Leave your answers and comments in the comment section down below. And remember, if you're enjoying this show, if you like watching our videos each and every week with information about the Montreal Canadiens, their prospects, and news happening around the NHL, and you haven't done so yet, I just invite you to take a quick second, tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, smash the like button, and most importantly, share this video on your favorite social media platforms. We're getting down to the last couple of weeks of the regular season, and a focus has started to shift onto goaltending a bit. Sam Montembeault going on a 4-game starting streak, not really quite sure, hasn't been clear yet as to why the coach or GM has had Sam Montembeault making start after start after start after start. Jake Allen is slated to start in Boston. But it brings up a question of looking towards next year, what personnel are going to change, and rumors are swirling, of course, that Carter Hart, that goaltender from the Philadelphia Flyers, is going to be made available this summer. Well, when that news came out, I had 3 big reasons why Carter Hart should not come to Montreal, why the Canadiens should not be his landing spot. And if you'd like to know my reasons why, well, you can watch that video right here and then meet me back next week for another episode of Habs Hockey Report.